Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have a story here about dear sweet Ash Regan, a woman who, not the brightest button in the box as I've mentioned many times before, but at least someone who did have the courage of her convictions to stand up for the safety of women and girls, resign her position as minister over the gender reform bill, and eventually leading to her to quit the party over probably, I suspect, a lot of abuse that she may well have received since sort of standing up for those rights. Certainly we've seen from the likes of Lisa Cameron that if you go against what the narrative of the party is, you do get bullied a lot. And I think especially if you're a woman in the SNP, it seems to be a very old boys club. But we will have a look at this story because she thinks that there are many more MSPs ready to jump ship, ready to move. And that if this happens, of course, it would utterly destroy the SNP, perhaps fatally, because they would actually not have a majority in Holyrood any longer. And that would be a wonderful way to end their absolute destructive reign over, a country that needs to certainly deserves a lot better, put it that way. Anyway, we'll take a look at this story, see what she says, see what she thinks. Not a lot, but I'm sure there's something going on in there. Here goes. Now, I'm not, of course, saying that Ash Regan is an absolute, bimbo or anything like that. She's not stupid on an everyday basis. I'm sure that she can function quite perfectly in normal life. She can do the shopping, she can tie her own shoelaces, things like that. But I mean, politically, you saw this during the election for leadership, that race to the bottom, as it were. They would ask her a question. She was sitting there. They'd ask her the question, and she was like a rabbit caught in the headlights. She didn't know how to answer, and she would just mouth the things that she'd heard someone else say. Scottish Central Bank, And then they would ask her, well, how would you do that with credit ratings? How would you deal with an international money purchasing system? How would you deal with? And she hadn't got a Scooby-Doo. She just didn't realise how complex certain things were. Didn't do her homework. Didn't know. And you just saw her like that, astonished that someone could ask a question that required some sort of logical thought. And you could see that there was no logical thought going on. She is a constant source of astonishment for a lot of people. Anyway, she has said that there is 15 Nat MSPs who are on the edge of quitting Humza Yousaf's divided party. The party's former leadership contender says something is clearly very wrong inside the SNP, and she dismisses the claim that she makes transgender Scottish Green workers feel unsafe. They have no problem sharing a bathroom with me, she says. But do you have a problem sharing a bathroom with a man? And I think the answer is yes, and that's why she quit the party. But when you read this, when we go through this, there are some things that, you've got to actually feel sorry for it in some things because, to be the subject of bullying, and she undoubtedly has been. She's undoubtedly taken abuse from these people, and I'm very much against that. If you can have a difference of opinion, you can express your difference of opinion, but the bullying that she will have undoubtedly had is not very attractive to anyone. So anyway, we'll go in. Former US SNP leadership contender Ash Regan, not her real name, incidentally. Many people don't know. She changed her name because there were people at school. There was another girl at school with the same name as her. Did you know that? There we go. Anyway, she said of her many former colleagues in Humza Yousaf party are very unhappy. She said there are as many in the party who are very disgruntled, and maybe about 14 or 15 MSPs are significantly on the edge. And that would be an astonishing thing if they did walk, if they did go across and didn't matter who they joined, just walked away. The party just implode, wouldn't it? Anyway, the bombshell claims came after she sensationally quit the Nats last weekend to become the Alba Party's first MSP. And in the wake of her defection, Alba MP Neil Hanvey claimed that more politicians would follow, although fellow backbench rebel Fergus Ewing made it clear he was staying put. And I did the video, it was last Monday, and we looked at the top 5 likely to go, according to the press, and who would and wouldn't, and I said straight away Fergus Ewing would be the last one to go, but simply because of his loyalty to Winnie. I think he'd find it very difficult to go. Anyway, speaking to the Herald on Saturday, the Edinburgh Eastern MSP said, dissent isn't tolerated in the SNP. It gets crushed. She said tens of thousands of members have disappeared and several elected members have gone too. Clearly something is very wrong inside the SNP. If you show anything other than ultra loyalty to the SNP, they will berate you. They will use physical force. They send around very, very threatening guys that will do awful things because they cannot have dissent. This has been seen many a time. Lisa Cameron, of course, actually had to go into hiding because of the abuse she was getting after quitting. She added, I know I'll be in a group of one for a while, and it may be lonely, difficult and challenging, but I'm optimistic that others will join me as certain events unfold. What does she know that's going on behind the scenes? Who knows? It does seem from this that there's something else happening, and that something is about to break, and that people will quit over it. Who knows? Anyway, I feel a lot better though, because I'm now free to talk about independence again. And in the last few years, that's not been the case, as there's been no support from HQ or central office. Well, you can talk about independence, but really, Ash, not many people want to hear it. They want to hear how you're dealing with the NHS, social care, education, communication, transport. They want to hear the real issues. They're fed up to the back teeth of the constant waffling over an independence that isn't actually going to happen. Get the country in order first, and then maybe people will join you. But until you get that country in order, it isn't going to happen. Miss Regan first hit the headlines when she quit as Community Safety Minister in October 2022 in protest at the Gender Reform Recognition Bill, making an enemy of then First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and sparking the biggest SNP rebellion in years. Because a lot of the people inside the SNP did actually agree with her. Some agreed with her and wouldn't rebel, but you know, they did agree with her, and I think that's come out, and that's why there is this division. She said the SNP had no idea how unpopular gender reform was among the public. It's hugely unpopular. Nobody wants their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their nieces, their friends to be put into a position where they may have a complete strange man undressing, getting his junk out in front of them in a changing room, and especially if those people are very young. If you can have like a 10-year-old girl in there, some fully developed man walks in, gets his lady cock out in front of them and waggles it about, and apparently there's nothing you can say. And if you did say anything, according to the SNP, you are the phobe, you are the problem, not the man for waggling his bits. And we know how dangerous these people are, and it shouldn't be allowed. Anyway, on one occasion, she said, I saw that gender reform was on the agenda, and I told Nicola that campaign groups were actually forming to fight this. She flat out refused to countenance this, but these groups became a mighty campaigning force. I don't think she or the party understood how determined ordinary females would organise and fight back. On Friday it emerged that Miss Regan will need to move to a new office at Holyrood, and the Scottish Greens are not happy at the prospect of having her as a neighbour. Party insiders have claimed that transgender staff would fear for their safety. Yes, because Ash Regan is the sort that's going to go round and kick the shit out of people. Of course she isn't. They're putting that up. It's a load of crap, isn't it? Oh, look, a grown man in a frock is scared of a small woman. Oh, piss off, you sad sack of shit. The only person in the Greens who'd be scared of a woman is Gross Rhea, and that's only because he's really scared of his mummy, who he still lives with, because she spanks him, because he's such a prick. She must be really ashamed, you know. Mrs. Greer, you must be totally ashamed of the girl you've raised. Anyway, in a withering response, Miss Regan said, this is a parliament for grown-ups, and they should act like grown-ups. Some of those who claim to be disturbed at the prospect of my presence will have no problem sharing the woman's bathroom with me, so these claims are just performative and the sort of stuff you'd expect at a play group. Give her that one. Like that one. Well said, Ash. You get a little tick. Tick VG for that one. Anyway, she said, more serious for me is how damaging the Scottish Greens have been in government. Not just for you, but for everyone. Everyone agrees with this. She said it's beyond doubt that the Butte House Agreement has been damaging to the SNP as well. The policies have caused the SNP the most trouble in the last couple of years. And there are either policies that have come from the Scottish Greens or been implemented by them. Well, virtually every possible policy you can imagine has been a Green policy. It effectively is a Green government backed up by the SNP. And that's why everything's going wrong, because we know without doubt the Greens are a dangerous group of morons and fuckwits, for the want of a better word, because not one of them is educated. They're all stupid beyond belief, and they're led by a pair of plebs, the Imp and Geoffrey, who between them couldn't muster up enough intelligence to tie their own shoelaces. Anyway, we were whipped to support a Green minister, Lorna Slater, who has personally cost the taxpayer millions. She just said a lot of money, but millions, over ill-considered policies. And yet we threw out a highly respected member of our own group, Fergus Ewing, for opposing this. Now we're told that independence isn't even a red line for the Scottish Greens, according to Lorna. Her current office has a display of thank you cards from women's groups and individuals who backed her stance on women's rights. And I do say that's the one thing I think everyone can get behind. She is standing up for women and young girls. Well done to her for that. I will always praise her for that. She had the balls to walk. That, of course, is a rarity, really, in politics, but certainly in the SNP. So well done to her for that. Anyway, I think she's right. I think that there are more SNP people, MSPs and MPs, who would actually walk from the party. Certainly, a lot of the members are walking. Their numbers are falling by the day. If not people actively quitting, then people just not renewing memberships and things like that, and they're running out of money. Like, money is leaking like a sieve. They've got no real corporate sponsorship anymore. Come the next election, they'll find that they're getting virtually no money at all from Westminster. You have to say that they're going to go into administration. And that, of course, would mean a lot of people will become independents. They'll be done, dusted, and finished. Fantastic. Coming up. Now, of course, the problem you've got is that there are literally so many SNP MSPs. If 15 go, I think they're still the biggest party, aren't they? Still the biggest single party. However, and it depends where they go, the politics, but it doesn't really matter where they go, because at that point, although they're still the single biggest party, their majority, their super majority, if you will, with the Greens has gone, and I think you could have some grand coalition of unionists, and so by let's say most of them are either going to go to Alba or Labour. Let's be honest, if they did go, it'd be Alba and Labour, but you could have this grand coalition of the Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, Alba, and who have I missed? No, that'd be them, those four. That would be more than enough to kick the SNP and the Greens out. And then you'd have, obviously have to be done on a per policy basis every vote, but you'd have your deals struck and this and that and the other, and they'd say, look, you get a chance to get this policy through, we'll give you that policy and things like that, and you can do it like that and run it out until the next Holyrood elections. But for the next 2.5 years or so, you would have the SNP out of power, no more Greens sitting there doing stupid things, and the people of Scotland can take a bit of a breath. You'd have this grand coalition of unionism. And that would really annoy everyone who's a nationalist. It's fantastic, isn't it? But the maths are incredibly complex with who goes where. Anyway, and who would you make first minister? It'd either be Anna Sawar or Ross, wouldn't it? Depends. What's your poison? Anyway, there we go. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and it's nice to dream, isn't it? Bye.